Hi, I'm Meg and welcome back to Faith in the Waiting. It's just a channel where we can be open and just learn new things about important faith topics in our walk with Jesus. Whether you've been to church for 25 years, whether you're on your second week or you're looking to start your walk with Jesus, you're all welcome because this is an open and vulnerable place where we can just all share our journeys and see our growth. I hope you enjoy this video and have a good week. Bye.
My devotional I launched in August is still available on Amazon, so go check it out to grow and And I've done a relaunch of the Instagram, so for all latest updates and some new content and word, definitely go give that a follow too.
This is so long.
You rusty?
I'm rusty. I've done it like last
Wonderful.
time I did it in here was with Joel, and that was 6 months ago.
It's crazy.
Craziness, guys. I'm here with Phil. Phil,
Hello.
do you want to introduce yourself, say what you do in life?
Yeah.
Or just your job, because we're going to talk about creativity, what you do based around that, just who you are.
So I work at the C3 Church and I have a kind of split role.
Yes.
One is church line pastor, so you will see me a lot online on Sundays, generally content, social media. I love the internet.
Yes, you're always there.
I was raised with the internet, so I'm passionate about doing the internet well. People are annoyed at the internet and I'm just like, no, we can...
Especially the millennials.
Yes.
Really
Yes.
annoyed. And you work here. You're doing your projects. You speak like your Reel a Day project. You just started doing that.
Yes.
2 reels a day.
I'm doing 2 reels a day until Christmas currently.
Yes.
As well as doing my 365, which I think people forget about, but very
Still
much
does it.
I'm thinking about that. Those are my personal projects.
Yeah.
Apart from the digital media stuff I do here at church, which is graphic design, marketing, social media, photography, videography, editing, I do that outside of my C3 hours as well. So generally...
You just do it all the time. You're just there all the time.
Yeah.
doing it.
I'm making stuff all the time.
Which is good because it's building you up. Kind of a lot of that you speak about is not just about the stuff you're doing in the role, a lot of the other stuff you're doing as well. You're always doing something for free, doing some sort of extra project, which is really good.
Someone that really likes to be busy.
You're busy doing something, you can't not be doing something, which I can kind of relate to in a sense.
That's
I can't
very
not be
much
doing
you
stuff.
as well.
I can't not be doing stuff, but it has to be something new every time. So with the 365, I think I had dipped out about April because I have to be doing something new all the time. So staying consistently for me, doing the same thing is so hard. But I think it's really important to learn to do that because sticking with one thing, because you to get somewhere, you need to keep doing it. Which is I think is why you're doing the 2 reels a day, pushes it.
I think we share the same problems in terms of creativity and creating. Starting something new every day is wonderful.
It's great. Exactly.
If I could do that every day,
be sorted.
Be incredible.
Exactly. No, I agree.
Following through with what you've made.
Following through with it and keep doing it.
It's gross.
That's on here. I've not posted for 6 months.
Yeah, but you're still
I'm
here.
here now, guys. I'm still here, but actually consistently doing something so hard.
It's very
when
difficult.
you have so many ideas.
Yeah.
And you can't do all of them at one time. It's so annoying.
I think I shared with you the other day, if I could have a job where I could just have ideas
all the time,
and
that'd
then
be
pass
perfect.
it on to people, be like,
there is jobs like that.
Maybe, yeah.
But then sometimes you're a bit oh, I want to do this idea.
So with the 2 reels a day, people have been like, how do you have ideas? And I'm just like, no.
You've got them. That's literally what...
They're coming to me all the time.
That's perfect for you because you're still doing something different.
Yeah.
But just in the same format.
Yeah.
Which I'm so random. I'll be switching up all the time. My mum was at home and she's like...
The other day she went, what are you... The people at work have been asking, what are you doing now? And my mum will be like, oh, she's doing this. And they're like, what, a week ago she was doing,
Something I need to work on, but it's definitely it's helpful having ideas all the time. It's just where you channel it.
Yes.
Channeling it somewhere rather than just emptily throwing it out and expecting, because then you just expect it to grow. You're like, oh, I have this idea, why is it not working out? And you've spent I don't know, 1 time doing it.
I think at a similar age to you, I struggled with this.
Yeah.
To the point where I would make something new, launch something, be like, guys, look at this. And then after a while, people just didn't care.
Exactly.
And then you're
like, where's the... Yeah, people forget that you're doing it.
But that's really good because actually it teaches you can't make something new all the time when you fancy it. that people are going to disconnect. And if
Yeah,
you're making it
exactly.
for people, then you realise, I'm going to create burnout.
Yeah.
And so you have
that's
to
true.
realise that you have to be responsible
Yeah.
and not do that.
Like don't just, that doesn't make sense.
So one tip I would give to you,
Yeah.
if you have a good idea and you want to start something new, don't tell anyone about it for about 6 weeks.
Don't tell anyone. See that someone said that to me.
Yeah.
I don't even know. They were like, if the idea is still cooking, don't like. Some people will shut like. Oh, Craig Rochelle did a leadership podcast,
Nice.
and he said the same thing. He was like, if the idea's still cooking and you tell the wrong
Yeah.
person, they could shut that down and say it's really bad, but you've actually just not fully like developed it or like done
Yeah.
like, and then that'll stop you doing it when actually it's not. That's
Yes.
a bad thing. You just need to like that time to like
Yes.
put into
It
it.
really depends if it's an idea that's going to work.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because sometimes I create brands for myself for
Yeah.
things that I'm not going to launch, but
Yeah, you just do it.
it's
like,
just
yeah, exactly.
that feeling of being new.
You're like, oh, at least I've done. Yeah, I sometimes do stuff that I just don't actually.
Yes,
I've
that's
got loads of random videos that I've not even like done anything with, just so I can edit something.
Yes.
But it's like, yeah, some people put like I've told people my ideas and they're like, oh, like what is that? Like when I told people I was writing my devotional, they were like,
Yes.
what's going on? And I realised I was like, oh, I shouldn't have, like, I am that person that will go and tell everyone under the sun.
Yes.
I'll be like, guess what I'm doing, and then I've realised that's actually not like the way to be going.
Sadly.
Because someone stole one of my ideas as well before I did, and they did it first.
Nice.
They did it first, and I told them, and I was like, oh, so then it looks like it was their idea.
Yes.
I was really salty about it. So I've not done that since. I'm not telling. I'll tell a couple people because I can't keep it contained.
Your inner crew.
I have to tell Siri or something. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But yeah, and also your new podcast.
Yes.
That's something Phil's been working on for a while. I've seen it been posted. It's been coming up on my Facebook, Instagram all the time.
Nice.
Like, why did you like? What you've been I know you've been saying you've wanted to do a podcast for ages.
Yeah.
Like I remember, like even a little conversation like, oh, podcast, kind of my thing.
Yes. What made me realise that I could do it and should do it,
Yeah.
I've really doubted myself in that process. Really how you reference with the devotional.
Yeah.
Sometimes with an idea, it's good to listen to someone, be like, is
Yeah.
this a good idea or is this a bad idea? But sometimes they put cold water on it. And that process of navigating whether you should do something or shouldn't do something can be difficult. But for me, I love talking. And I actually spend a lot of time thinking generally. I'm a thinker.
Yeah.
And I have studied fine art. I'm in the creative field all the time. I'm thinking all the time about my processes, how I do things, why I do things, how I relate to people. So those things are always in my head.
Yeah.
And some of it is that I just need to get it out.
Yeah. You just like, yeah.
it's
And
there.
some people benefit from that.
Yeah.
You know, like that's like with it. I'm like, someone will benefit. Like someone,
Yes.
like it's fun for me to do, and then someone might
Yes.
get something from it.
Yes, but the other part is related to that in the sense that I came out of art school and then I didn't realise that people struggled with creativity.
Like it's actually, yeah.
I didn't understand
So many
that.
people go, oh, I'm not a creative person.
Yeah, completely.
Exactly.
So my friend Brad, and I've recently told the story on my podcast and in a reel, we were at a meal and he told me that he hated drawing, that he wasn't creative because people hated his drawings.
Yeah.
And he struggled with that disconnection between drawing one time and being creative, because he is really creative as a person.
Yeah. Like
And then I heard that and I was just
you were
like,
like, oh, you were like,
But-
there's more people out there that think that.
yeah, completely.
There is like.
I hear that all
so
the
many
time.
people. Yeah, people have this thing where you're like, oh, you're either an academic person or you're a creative person, and I'm like, I'm okay. Like GCSE results, slayed. Can I just say? But I also come up with
Well
some ideas as well. Like they coincide. It's not like
Yes.
you're one or the other. Like,
No.
And I think it's a very big thing actually, that even people talk about at school. Like they're like, oh, are you academic? Are you creative? It's
Mm-hmm.
a creative subject or academic. Which one are you going to choose?
Yeah.
It's like, why can't?
So I go into this into my podcast episode,
Yeah.
but I fundamentally believe that if you don't have an artistic expression,
Yeah.
so drawing, painting, photography, video, music, whatever it is, if you don't have that, you might think that you're not creative.
Yeah.
But that doesn't
I mean, like, yeah,
doesn't
it
make any
doesn't
sense.
mean that. you're not.
Because I think you could be creative without having that artistic expression, but they
Just
get
a different way.
they get linked and they get confused. So very much I see creativity as problem solving.
Yeah.
If you think in our life, when do we problem solve and what does that look like? And if you just think of your day-to-day life, did you problem solve getting here at all?
I don't know, like, I guess on the roundabout there was a bit of a jam, so I had to like work out where to go, you know what I mean? Like,
So did you have to do some problem solving?
exactly, I had to work out which, like, when I was going to go, when I was
Really
gonna,
nice, simple
like, you
idea.
know what I mean?
Fundamentally creative idea.
Yeah.
Now,
That's really interesting.
in our whole life,
Yeah.
sometimes with an artistic expression,
Yeah.
your YouTube and everything you put out, what is the crux of it which you're trying to help people understand? The problem is that you're explaining faith in the waiting.
Yes.
Or everything you do online, faith in the waiting,
Yeah.
it solves the problem of explaining your journey and waiting in faith.
Yes.
So how you outwork that might look like videos, might look like a devotional, might look like something else, but that's creatively outworking that
Yeah.
problem.
Like, not actually just the form, like the
Yes.
actual solving itself.
But
That's
sometimes
crazy.
problems are just like, I've got no food, how can I work out what to eat?
Yeah.
fundamentally-
like, if you out of what you've got.
A creative solution.
That is so true.
And if you think about
That's
it,
much more uplifting, though.
you'd have to
You know what I mean?
creatively come get a meal together.
Get a meal together out of what you've got.
100% creative.
That's so much uplifting as well, you know what I mean? Because you're like, people will be like, oh, like, what worth do I have?
Yeah.
And if you like realizing you're creative through just little mundane things like that,
Yeah.
it's like, actually I do have that
Yeah.
ability.
And it is
to
in the,
be
it is in the
creative.
very small things that all the time we're problem solving.
Yeah,
That I don't think you can function without doing that all the time.
you can't. Like, you'll just be
It's literally life.
like, if you didn't have the right food for like this exact recipe, like if you didn't problem solve, you'd just be sat there like,
Yes.
what do I do now? Even going, oh, you know what, I'm gonna go to the shop instead.
Yeah.
Like, if you didn't think that, you'd be pretty like,
Yeah.
yeah, you have to.
So sometimes that works out to be more literal.
Yeah.
Like, why do I write this album? The problem might be there that I want to earn money.
You might be feeling sad.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it can be extrapolated in different ways.
Oh.
But in that way, we all problem solve all the time. We problem solve in everything we do, little things, big things, but some people don't have an artistic expression.
That's just one like channeled view of looking at it, isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
But that's okay. Some people don't want to be artists. Some
Not
people don't want to do
everyone
music.
does the same thing.
It still means you're creative.
Exactly. That's such a good way of looking at it, honestly, because I used to tell my like, for example, my brother, like, he just plays Xbox all the day, I'm being real. Like, sorry. That's what he does. But he always says all the time, he's like, oh, I can't draw, I can't do this, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh, what can I do? And that's like, actually, even him playing his game, like, he's probably worked out something in there. Like,
Yeah.
building is whatever
Yes.
thing you're building, or like playing a game,
Nice.
you know, like working it out. And then he's like, oh, so that's a very good way of looking at it. I didn't think of that before you mentioned that, so it's very helpful.
So when people come to me and say they're not creative, I think often what happens is they are creative, they just don't understand what creativity really is. Because like we referenced, I don't think you can live life without problem solving. There's problems literally, there's hundreds of
Life
problems in
is
a
full
day.
of problems.
So little micro problems which are like, you wouldn't necessarily call problems, you know, there's a crash, so I'm going to have to get home. How am I going to do that?
Get a different way of going home.
Yeah, that's a creative way. Some of it might not feel creative, but
So
realistically...
you're saying that everything's creative? Because that's basically
Yes.
like
I think-
non-creative.
I think everything is a creative act, but sometimes it feels really mundane or really
Yeah.
small. But I don't think that's less than something
I'd
else.
say, like-
Artistically, that's a whole nother world. Because I think a painter, I have one of my favourite painters is Rothko.
Yeah.
And he had a problem once of he wanted to disgust the diners at a very famous restaurant in New
Yeah.
York. And so he painted in a certain way to make them disgusted. And that's
That
the
was his-
problem.
that was his,
he
yeah,
wanted
that was his,
them
like-
to look at the painting
Right.
and be completely changed by looking at the paintings.
By looking at it.
So he had a
That was
creative way of working that out. It didn't work, but that was his problem, and his solution was artistic.
Attempt a solution. That's, yeah, like not the actual like paint strokes itself is like what it was doing.
Yeah.
In English, you know where they say like creative writing?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if they call that creative writing, but you say everything's creative, why is that called creative writing?
So in that case, it's a difference between formal writing, which I think you probably call the other type of writing, would probably be more literal.
More literal, like...
This is this. And there's probably a list of lots of different categories that kind of include. I think creative writing would be more storytelling straight away.
Yeah.
Fiction. So that, yeah, I think the difference there is fiction, non-fiction.
Fiction, non-fiction, creative writing is kind of like being like, whoa,
Yes.
there was a beast walking up the stairs.
And I think terms like that don't really help because they're both creative.
Yeah, because you're like, isn't that creativity writing?
Yes.
like ours?
One is about researching and presenting information very plainly, but you still need an arc, you still need a story, you still need a deliverance mechanism.
I guess that kind of adds to the whole everyone thinking, oh, creativity is channeled
Yes.
in one area. Or
100%.
things being called like, oh, creative form. And it's like, is the rest not creative?
Yeah.
Like,
And again, we could take apart this picture all the way along. Maths. Again, you're thinking about problems and how to resolve it, different ways to do that. How do I write this? What does this mean? You're questioning, you're taking
literally
apart.
like, yeah,
Fundamentally creative.
literally is.
Yeah.
Amen.
So it's just sometimes how the world has packaged something,
Yeah, like
which confuses people, I think.
a lot of things in the world is just put into like a box.
Yeah.
Like we have to put it somewhere, so it's
And
creative.
I think I know why this is. If you think at school, there's no way in
Yeah.
which you can tell a kid, I couldn't tell my son, by the way, this is creativity and this is an artistic expression. He'd be like,
he'll be like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, please, like, let me go for lunch.
I'm just going to draw.
Exactly.
I just want to. So I
Easier to
think
understand.
it's so in your head. You have to think about it. If you haven't got the time, if you're naturally not that way inclined artistically, so if you don't draw and paint, probably not in a creative field.
Yeah.
You're not thinking about creativity. You're creative, but you're not thinking about how that affects me. I think this is where, with my podcast, I'm thinking about it all the time.
You're like, yeah, it's always
Like it's in my head.
there. Yeah.
So I think
So-
for that reason, I'm like,
You're
I can talk about
You're
this.
like, I can. Yeah, it's something
Yeah.
that you openly like think about all the time. Whereas other people, they don't.
yeah,
Why are they gonna think? Like, why are they just gonna go? Oh,
yeah,
I'm creative. Like, it's not something that you think unless it's been unlocked.
yeah,
Like, I didn't think that until you like said about it, and I was like, oh, actually,
all the time.
that's true. You know what I mean? Which is why there's a space for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I really
Like,
hope you're
because-
gonna message me at like random times, be like, I was just doing this random thing.
And now I'm being creative. I'll be like, Phil, I made my lunch. I made
Creatively.
artistry.
But
I
there we go.
problem
That's a
solve.
really good
Literally, we're just making your
analogy,
lunch.
right?
Making your lunch.
Making your lunch. We make our lunch functional, right? We think, oh, that's
you
not
have to do
creative.
it just because you need it to eat.
But can you imagine a catering company making lunches creatively and artistically, artisan sandwiches?
Yeah.
What's the difference?
Literally the same process.
Branding,
Same process.
marketing, packaging.
Same process.
Realistically, it's
Same
creative.
process. And yeah. Divergence, yeah. I know I said it like that. I went, love
You made it
talking about
special.
Just like me.
Just like you.
I joke about myself at this point. Last time I talked about this, I was not diagnosed, but I am now, guys, so I can actually talk about
I
it.
feel like you need a reveal video in between
did.
there. You did?
I did do it. No, I didn't reveal it. I just talked about how I thought I had it. Guys, I left out a whole chapter. I'm going to have to do like a reveal transition where it's like, surprise. I'll do it before this edit.
Surprise.
I'll just edit in like a
No one's
surprise.
surprised.
Everyone's like, we knew from the start. Like, who's surprised? He's not surprised because he's the one that identified it.
I'm not surprised.
He's
In the
one-
best way.
He's the one that discovered it.
Helps you discover it.
Helped me discover it. He just went, hey, BT dubs. No.
Yeah. Neurodivergence.
No. Like, some people say, like, for example, with ADHD, people with ADHD are a bit more creative.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is it? Like, I don't know. Thoughts? Obs rates? You know what I mean? That's
So-
very Gen Z, guys. Obs rates means opinions. Just in case anyone like Will's watching.
Yeah. That's good. Well done.
Brackets.
I actually have a friend who works in a marketing
Yeah.
industry, and he's dyslexic. So that is along the lines of, you
All
know,
that, the whole
the whole umbrella.
whole cluster.
You can pick anything and place that in
Yes.
there. And he has a phrase, which I don't like, and I've corrected, where he said, "Oh, dyslexia makes me more creative."
You made a reel about that.
Yeah, I did.
You made a reel about
I
that.
made a reel about that. All these things are in
He's
my
like plug. He's like.
all
check
these
out
things are in my head. Trust me.
Yeah.
But to use that as a picture, well done for watching a reel of mine.
I watch the shows I watch because I literally brought it up.
I mean, there's a lot of them.
There's a lot of them. I'd be on TikTok every day, so.
Yeah, might as well. And he's right. It does
Yeah.
make him more creative. But simply, if you have to solve more problems in your life, you're going to be better at problem solving. That's just, a fact, right?
Yeah.
You as a person with your neurodiversity have to solve so many more problems just to function normally.
Normally, aside from
normative.
adding.
To mask, in a sense, all the time is to ask yourself, I've got a problem of looking normal in this situation. How do I look normal? How do I not look silly? How do I not just run around the room? And you're literally having to problem solve yourself
Yeah.
all the time.
All the
It's
time.
crazy.
Not even choosing to.
And I think if you listed, just you problem solving your own neurodiversity, that list would be really long.
Like whole scroll.
Yeah, and that's before you even got to any problems.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, that's very true.
And some of that is mixed and in there. But I think if you are neurospicy in any way, you're problem solving all the time, you're good at problem solving. Without being good at problem solving, you're going to struggle. And of course, a spectrum, some people are high support needs, that's going to be harder to talk about. And we're not necessarily covering everyone in a blanket here.
Yeah, no, everyone's different.
It's easier to talk about low support need because
that's something
you are low
relate
support
to,
needs
they
as
relate
well.
to exactly.
But you encounter a lot of problems just to function.
Yeah.
And you know that.
Yeah.
And to do as well as you do to look normal.
Yeah. Takes a lot of problem solving.
So you're used to problem solving.
Yeah, that's true. Whereas other people just develop. For the
A neurotypical gets up. I don't know what it feels like.
I don't know.
Have
They
a
just
shower.
they're like, right, I'm gonna go talk to people. Like,
Yeah.
whoa. Yeah.
Yeah, where you're.
Whereas I'm like, oh, let's practice in the mirror how to say hi.
Yes, but problem solving.
Yeah, because it's solving the problem of talking to someone later on.
Yeah.
That's like when I did
Practice.
story
rehearsal.
time. I got this story time. Like once I was meeting up with a friend, and this was before I got diagnosed, and that was the point that I realised.
Yeah.
You have a point where you realise, even though people be saying all the time, I was sat in the car and I was going, "Hey, how are you?" And I kept saying it over and over again. And I sat there afterwards and I was like,
Rehearsal's a very good indicator.
I was like, this is suspicious.
Yeah.
But like that's problem solving itself, because then when I saw that person, I then knew how to do it because I've been practicing it.
Yes.
But then the neurotypical person probably just got out of bed, got out of the door and went, "Hey, I'm here to hang
Yes.
out."
Yeah.
So I guess like
So I feel like neurotypicals are more practice to just problem solving generally, because of that. A lot more problems to solve.
because then also like the ADHD kind of thing I was thinking about is like people. Well, I don't know if this is more like what's it called, like bias, but a lot of people with ADHD have lots of ideas all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel I don't know, but then because ideas equal
Yes.
creativity, like you know what I mean? Because ADHD, like for example, one person I was talking to that has ADHD was like, they wrote a book and they were like, oh, I was up till like 4 a.m. writing it. I wrote this whole book in a night because I had this like.
I love
creative
that.
energy.
So ADHD.
And I wrote half my book in one night. The rest took a while, but I wrote
Yeah.
half of it in one night. And I'm like, compared to a neurotypical person who might not have that same like, if you see like as in like science where there's like just electrons, like it's like that. So I'm like, does that make them more creative as a person, or does it just make them have more ideas?
In terms of how your neurodiversity outworks,
Yeah.
I think some of it's good, some of it's a hindrance. For example, the idea thing, I've still not really processed why so many ideas come to
Yeah.
me. Is that my
You're like, is that just
neurodiversity?
me?
Is that
Oh,
me?
yeah.
And in some ways, a deadline with someone who has ADHD is a nightmare. So that's probably why
Yeah.
there's an element of rush or an element
It's
of
like we need to get this done.
panic
Yeah.
with something like that.
'Cause it's hard to tell whether it's actually part of that or if it's knock-on effects from it.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
So how your
That's
creativity
creativity in itself.
is outworked with neurodiversity is very complex.
Yeah, it's not like it's just...
And it's very hard to talk about even between you and me. Although we're quite similar in our sets of things,
Yeah.
which
yeah.
bodes well for me. But if you look at someone else that I know, they really struggle with procrastination. So when they really want to deliver something creatively, but they can't. So they're stuck. And they need overwhelming pressure before they can do anything.
Yeah.
So
That's
where I think it's difficult
there's
to be creative as neurodiverse person.
It's like very different for each person.
100%.
Because it's kind of blanket to go, all diverse people
Neurodiverse.
are more creative, because everyone is, like I said, it's a spectrum of different, like someone will have more of that, someone will have less of that, someone like...
Yeah, 100%.
It's like, it's not like everyone. Like, I guess it's easy to see like a statistic of, X amount of people with neurodiversity got this done compared to the neurotypical people.
Yes.
You know, like, or even ASD, if you have like for example, someone with a special interest, like they're gonna get more done in that area than
Deep dive.
They're gonna like deep dive into it compared to the person that just kind of is just like, oh, this is interesting, I love it, but not as much as that.
Yes.
But then I guess that kind of like gets cancelled out when you say everything is creative, because then that other person will be doing all their things.
Yes.
all the
So
time.
it is very hard to speak into that. I'm always very careful to say anything that would make neurodiversity a superpower. There's lots of positives.
The amount of people that have said that to me,
Yeah, because it's generally a negatively framed thing.
it still annoys me though. I'm like,
Because they
I'm
don't
like,
really,
I don't see it as a superpower.
they don't see the disability side. That's the problem.
Yeah.
But there are massive positives.
There is.
For example, I generally have disconnection with my body, so I do all these things with
And
creativity.
you don't feel like...
because I don't feel tired.
Yeah.
I'm probably tired.
Your body's actually tired, but you don't feel it.
Yes.
Exactly.
That is
That's like me not being
Good
tired at
and
night. I'm
very
never
bad.
tired at night.
yes, but you probably are.
My body's tired,
Yes.
but I'm not tired.
You don't. There's a disconnect. But that's equally as good as it is bad.
Exactly. That's the thing, because then your body will just shut down.
Yes.
And you're like, actually, is this a good thing? But it's, it's
So
just,
to say that on each case is very difficult, really.
it's hard. Because that's like,
Yeah.
I feel like that's the thing that's kind of put, it's a kind of trying off it, but it's still interesting. Before I got diagnosed with it, people always said all the time about the good, like, that superpower element. And I was sat there and I was like, it feels like everything's bad. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I was like, I don't feel like there's anything good out of this. So I was like, surely I can't have this if I've not got that good part that everyone says is
Yes.
the superpower of like, oh, well, I'm great at, like, I know everything in the world about trains, so now I'm a train expert. Or, like, you know, I can make all the paintings, or, you know what I mean? I'm this
Yeah.
great scientist because I just spent all my time. And I'm like, I felt like I didn't have that. So I
Yes.
was like, what actually, what actually superpower is this?
I think.
Still, like, I'm like...
Yeah, I think it's because on the outside it can look very powerful, but people can't understand and hold the pain of what you suffer.
They just see it, like,
Yeah.
sometimes, like, it's a very ASD thing as well. It's like they just don't emotionally
Yes,
connect
which
to
is
that.
ironic.
Which is very ironic in itself. But yeah, that's very true. Because for you, it's like, yeah, I was going to a full...
Because
Story
really,
time.
if you hold it all in your mind, if you could possibly do that, a whole lot of pain, like a lot of pain daily,
Yeah.
and then just a very
Just a little
sliver
but
of
to
like,
someone
that's
else,
good.
it looks like, whoa, this person. Like, I actually, like, I actually worked out what my, like, thing was, okay? Like, I didn't realise until my assessment. And I was like, whoa. I didn't even know, my mum told me this. I taught myself to read at the age of 3. Like, I taught myself, I was basically
Yes.
Matilda 2.0. And apparently I was, like, fluent at age 4. Like, I was reading the adult books in primary school, you know, and that was my, like, now I can read a book in, like, a couple hours. And everyone's like, how do you do that? Like, that's a blessing in itself, because I
Yes.
just read all the time, did that. And everyone around me is like, oh, that's so cool that you can do that. I wish I had that. But because everything had, like, you know what I mean? Everything had masked that, I didn't see that as, like, a
Yeah.
Still now, I'm like, I'd rather not be able to read that fluently and not have
Oh, yes.
100%.
You'd
I'll
rather
trade
be
it.
normal.
I'll be normal and not be able to read well.
Yeah.
I went off a bit on a tangent, but it was like so interesting.
Unfortunately, I have both and dyslexia.
And dyslexia,
so I
and
can't
as
read well.
So at school, they were a bit like, we're not sure what's going on with her because I was really slow in school. Like they'll go on the slides and they'll go so quick. They'd go like, you know, on the whiteboard when you're trying to catch up, and I'm trying to write, and I'm still halfway through the first slide when they're on slide 10. So they went to the send person and was like, yeah, we think there's something up. So they're like, oh, she probably has dyslexia. And I was like, I literally taught myself to read at 3. What do you mean dyslexic? Like, I can read perfectly fine.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I got diagnosed with ASD as I finished school. Like, I got my A-level results and got my results of the assessment at the same time. And they told me and it made all sense.
Yeah.
So, I was intelligence as well. Like, people see, they're like, you're intelligent.
Yeah.
They always say that to people with ASD. They're like, oh, you're an intelligent person.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know, when you're always top of... They even ask in the assessment, they're like, oh, were you top of the class at school? And my mum was like, yeah, she was. And I thought that was just me being good. And then they told me, oh, that's because you've been, like, studying for, like, 10 hours.
But also very normal, more normative, I should say, in women compared to guys, I think.
Really?
I've heard a lot of stories, and autism in particular is undiagnosed in women, often misdiagnosed, but that is something that girls can do quite well.
You're just seen as clever. They're just like, well done, you're clever.
Yeah.
And it turns out all the autistic people were the clever people at the top of the class. It's literally the question. They were like, oh, and my mum was like, yep, and then the lady stopped asking questions. She went, we don't need to ask any more questions anymore. When I clipped off the call, I was like, okay. When the assessor says you don't need to ask any more questions anymore, you're like, I get it. I understand.
So with me, if we're talking about superpower, and I'm still waiting for assessment, and I believe I have ADHD and autism or ADHD. And I already have dyslexia confirmed. Out of them all, dyslexia is the thing that screws my life over.
Yeah, I remember you saying.
With the lack of memory due to ADHD, I don't feel like I have that superpower element. I can't read.
You're like, this literally
write.
Disables me. Like, where's the good part out of this?
I have no memory, can't remember anything. So sometimes I just feel incredibly dumb.
Because do you ever think that that is part of like the ADHD and it's been missed? Or do you generally like think you have dyslexia and those two things as well? Because things can like, you know, when comorbidities.
Yes.
You're like, because they're at that point they didn't know.
Well, how about in our personal lives, I will stop proofreading my text and then you'll see, you'll be like, whoa, this is disturbing.
It's like the typing, I'm like, hello?
I've stopped doing that with some people and I've stopped the masking and they're like, oh, this is
they're like
terrible. And I'm like, this is
actually me.
I have to Google every sentence that I write.
Really?
Every single Google. So again,
that's
problem
in itself.
Having to overcome,
rather than just going, hey, like I can't do this. You're like, right, I'm gonna find a way to do this.
Which is a good example of masking and using creativity within the spectrum to overcome. Like I can look normal. I can look normal, but trust me, the amount of work.
Honestly, to wake up every day, guys, is a lot. I promise. Like, I love talking about callings. Like that is I love talking about it so much. And a calling isn't just one thing. It's lots of men. We think we've got to the point where it's like people see calling as like, oh, this is one set thing in the future, like that I have to complete. But I see it, in my opinion anyway, like I'm called to do many things. Like even called to wake up. I'm called to, you know, go and do whatever I was doing earlier, help Pride with the stuff. You know, God said, hey, that's happening today. But calling and creativity, I think they very much come, I don't know, like interlinked, definitely. Like,
but
who God's calling you to be, like you wouldn't. Yeah, you know what I'm trying to like.
Even then, because I think a lot of the time people could be stuck specifically with God said this, and that means I can only do this. And I've heard preachers which I haven't liked, let's say, of stick to your lane, don't veer off. And you hear that in churches. I see calling and creativity like a beautiful open field with fences. So have fun, go and do what I've called you to do missionally. You are good naturally at some things, you're bad at some things. So maybe you can't sing, you're not going to be a singer-songwriter.
No,
so
that
you're
is
not,
absolutely
God's
nice.
not going to call you to do that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Some of that is more obvious than not, but I just think that God's calling for me is more like a field.
Yeah.
Go have fun, fulfill my calling, make disciples, baptize them in my name, and then there'll be some specific things. And if you cross a fence, I'll just
Like,
bring you back in.
Yeah, I see it like sat nav, like redirect. Like even if you like go out there, it's still gonna
Yes.
redirect you back there. It's not like I feel like it's taken very literally. Like
Yes.
I have to do X, Y, Z. Like for example, I have to. So you want to become a pastor? It's like I'm going to become a pastor of a church of 1,000 people, and who knows? There could be a prophecy of that. But like
Yeah.
I'm going to pastor, feeling like you have to become a pastor
Yes.
of 1,000 people as a worship leader for this amount of time. Like this, it's kind of a bit like more like
It's more like
I was on my train of thought. Why did it do that?
it's more like
It's more like actually, say God might be calling you to, even in pastor. Like pastor isn't just like that person that goes and steps up on the podium. What do you call it?
stage.
On the wherever, standing on the stage and going and
Stanchion.
preaching, like in front of the lectern. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It could be like looking at like starting a charity and being like, hey,
Yeah.
for people that come that way. I was very much like when I knew I was kind of going into that. I'm a very literal thinker. #neurodivergent. And I was like, it's got to be this only one thing. And then as time's gone on, I'm like, actually, I've gone through X, Y, Z.
Yes.
This is pouring me this way. And then I was like, how can I do that and that at the same time? Actually, I can.
Yeah.
There's different ways.
And I think there are nuances in that. Some of us are definitely more evangelistic. I'm a pastor. I'm very pastoral.
Yeah.
I'm not a teacher. I'm not going to be teaching something here at church called our growth path. It's just not going to happen.
It's just not your like.
But I just feel like one thing is sometimes limiting God. If I was given an opportunity at church, I would literally be in every place I could, doing everything. One reason why I can't is that that's not possible. But I feel like in that open field strategy, if I wanted to, it'd be a case of me stopping one thing and starting another thing. Again, maybe not the best singer in the world, but I could be on the worship team in some way. They'll probably turn down my guitar a bit. Probably the same as you. They'll turn your guitar down a bit. But
It'll be like one volume.
Yeah.
Volume 1
they
level.
do that, by the way, worship teams.
Do they? If they don't like it,
Pretend you're plugged in.
They're like, they can think that they're doing it. If they've got the worship, like, they
Yeah.
look like they're worshipping, that's still
fine.
part of the vibe, isn't it?
But I still really feel like if people thought in an open field kind of mindset, they would be like, no, I can do this.
But yeah, rather, we're not closing, but like going,
Yeah.
you're not good at that, so we're not even going to give you the
Yeah.
opportunity. Like,
Yeah,
1 minute left.
and I think sometimes people get confused with natural talent and, you're not naturally gifted at that, so you shouldn't do that.
You shouldn't do that because you're not naturally good. It's actually like,
But I don't agree with that.
no,
at all.
like we can grow in our, like even if you're doing it just because you enjoy it.
Yeah.
God's going to give you that. If God's giving you that passion, I say, maybe don't go like on the Sunday and sing, but like
Yes.
you can do it with your friends. Like, and even if you did one on the Sunday, there's nothing stopping you. I feel like taking the barriers
Yeah, definitely.
away from creativity, like the whole thing of it being anything, like
Yeah, open field.
open field, like instead of barriering it up, we should just be like let people, unless there's some circumstances where you're just like people will say some things are creative, like crimes, for example. Like I'm just being creative. I was just being creative. I wanted to steal that watch, so I wanted to show that I can problem solve. Like maybe not.
That's some kind of weird art
I'm
installation.
like, well, Phil said I'm creative.
Not advocating stealing. It's not on.
The end.
End.
Well,
I guess you're
great
recording.
intro.
Guess you're recording later.
I'll be like, hey, I'm at my house by myself.
I didn't have enough recording time.
I'll do the thing, you know, in YouTube videos where they're like then at the end it's just got them on their phone, like phone recording going, hey guys, by the way, BT dubs. Oh, this is actually good lighting. Oh,
That was the idea.
me and my new phone. Thank you. Thanks,
Very
Phil.
welcome.
It's still recording, but it's just not got 0 minutes.